Il Bastardo. It was January 9th. Actually, it was after midnight when I first laid my eyes on him, so January 10th is more accurate. I could tell the day had changed by the click I heard in the crystal bubble on the face of my Rolex watch, which displays the date. I got one of these very same watches when I graduated high school, given to me by my mother, and after having worn it for some 25 years, I sold it and replaced it with an inexpensive watch. But I was given another Rolex recently by my wife. I love this watch. I first learned about it from reading Ian Fleming novels about James Bond when I was a kid. Bond wore the same watch, and I always wanted one, and now this is my second. And it's quite new. Okay, that was a digression. I can do that sometimes. Well, I was lying in bed, technically on January 10th, reading next to my sweetly slumbering wife who gave me the watch, not the first wife I had, who was not nearly as good as this one sleeping beside me. The first wife was not intelligent like this one, not classy, not employed, not faithful, but that is a whole other story. I just realized I'm really wanting to launch into another digression here. At least that's something, noticing it. So, trying one more time. January 10th, in the early hours, I was dive-bombed by what seemed to be a mosquito. It was freezing cold out, and had been for a couple of months. Piles of snow covered everything, and no bug had been seen on the landscape since just after Thanksgiving. Well, there are always bugs, let's face it. You can't always see them, but there's a bug somewhere. I'm referring here to summer bugs, like mosquitoes. Now, ants can turn up, it seems, anywhere at any time. And flies. Flies, though associated with summer, can really spring up and surprise you with a visit at pretty much any time of the year, too. But I digress. I'm learning in therapy with my shrink, Marushka, that I digress. She's convinced I have ADD or ADHD, or that I dissociate, or that I'm some kind of boring idiot. She didn't say the last one. That last one was a kind of humor. But she does think that I get lost when I speak, and that others don't like it, and that leads me to feeling lost in my own life, which I am not. I'm not even sure what that means. I'm not lost, and I don't lose my way. I want to give a clear picture of what I'm trying to describe so that you get to enjoy the story right along with me. Marushka is of Russian descent, she says. Her name certainly implies it, and so I don't doubt her on that count. She is glamorous for a therapist, and I think she tries to persuade me to change my ways by acting in a coquettish and fetching manner. It doesn't have a whit to do with my changing anything, but I like it. I like the way she crosses and uncrosses her long legs and tilts her head to the side and says things like,
"Do you really think that's important to tell me right now?
or,
Can you help me understand why we are talking about this right now?"
in a kind of sweetsy baby talk voice. Then she smiles and twinkles her Soviet eyes at me. Hey, it's the least she can do. I'm not changing very much, so I just enjoy the show. I wonder if they teach you to do that kind of cutesy, seductive thing in shrink school. I mean, maybe it's in some psychotherapy course where they say, if all else fails, try to seduce the guy to get him to do what you want. It's for his own good. Now, if I wanted that, I would have just stayed with the first wife and skipped the $150 per hour and bought her a house, which I basically did anyway. Man, I actually feel I'm getting way off topic here. Maybe the therapy is working because I'm noticing it more and more. Okay. January 10th, technically, dive bombed, etc. And I thought to myself that it couldn't have been a mosquito. They have a shitting 3 to 4 week life cycle. My eyes followed the thing above the Doug Copeland novel as it torqued past the nightstand lamp toward the ceiling. All the way up, I held it in my nearsighted capacity until it was lost to me. Couldn't have been. It's the middle of winter in Massachusetts. Never has a mosquito survived so long in the grip of the New England winter as far as I know. A mosquito? Come on. Still, there is a flying creature of some kind in the bedroom. I'm not hallucinating, late as it may be, and half a bottle of Il Bastardo Sangiovese on board. A bug of any type could drive me crazy. But a mosquito? Blood-sucking freak, like a little Dracula. I love Dracula. I mean, have you ever read the book? It's damn scary, man. And he's got a lot of layers, the Count. Actors have tried it many times and in many ways. The sadness and ugliness of Bela Lugosi, the eccentricity and beauty of Frank Langella, the slickness of Farley Granger, the sheer fright sight and madness of Gary Oldman. Dracula promises life everlasting and resurrection from death. He wants you to drink blood, eat flesh, and make an everlasting covenant with him. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's what I'm saying. The guy's got layers. And how about Dracula as every man? It's like he's got a habit, like an addiction, a fetish, a secret life. And he has to do it at night. Nobody looking. Under wraps. Behind the curtains. And when he does do it, it gives him life. And then, a little while later, he has to do it again. And again. It's only a temporary fix. Layers. Layers. I love Dracula. Oops! I'm way off. Where was I? Oh, yeah. The 10th dive bomb can't be a mosquito mystery. Now, I don't like to kill. I avoid all killing, always have. Well, when I was a kid, I remember stepping on hundreds of ants at a time. Ant hills were treasure troves of wholesale murder. We'd slaughter scores of little lives and sit silently mystified and curiously satisfied by our cruel deeds and dominion over them. I don't kill now, generally. But if you bite me and suck my blood, you die. That's the end. I mean, I said I like Dracula, but I wouldn't want him actually messing with my blood. But if you're a mosquito and you go for me, you die and be done with it. You want to live? Don't suck the blood out of me. That's the deal I make with nature and all humankind. Leave my blood in me, and we live side by side. Try to spill it, and I do my best to send you to Neverland. I've practiced all my life to supply you with your ticket. I have references. I know the "I've got references" thing sounds incredibly showy and narcissistic, and anybody who knows anything about psychology would see all my bravado as completely false and a threat to no man. This I get from Marushka. Nevertheless, I'll kill a little blood-sucking freak. Enough said. Okay, I'm off again. I'm so sorry. So, I read for a while and eventually had to pee, which is the result of a huge prostate and the wine, as I mentioned. Just for the record, the prostate is a real pain. It all began with the numbers. 11? 11? How could my PSA be 11? The dick doctor says anything above the number 4 is abnormal for the prostate cancer test. Can't be. Wasn't it yesterday that I was pissing so hard into the toilet that the foam would threaten to go over the top? Wasn't it the last winter or so and I could actually write my whole name in the snow? 11? No, can't be. 11? Lab error. Laboratory error. But now I'm feeling a little tense. What if... Nah. Norman Schwarzkopf, Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah, maybe De Niro, John Kerry, Joey from the Ramones. I mean, they got it. But these are unusually busy and stressed out people with enormous responsibilities. They get sick because of who they are and what they have to do. Me, I live a tiny life. No pressure, man. Can't be cancer. Okay, so my urine stream isn't what it once was, and yes, I do pee more frequently, and it feels like an emergency half the time. Okay, so I get up 2 or 3 times a night and stand or sit there for a few minutes waiting for the stream, such as it is, to start, then slowly, imperceptibly drip to a pathetic faux finale, only to waken me to finish the job 30 minutes later. And I'll admit that I can't write my name in the snow anymore. Not even my first initial. The arc required for that skill no longer exists. When I have to go in the woods, I'm lucky I don't pee on my shoes. Yeah, I guess it's been more than a year or so since I was a candidate for snow scripting. And I do have an empty Skippy peanut butter jar in the glove box for emergencies. All right, there are signs of a change. So now what? Digital rectal exam. I don't come from a good background for these sorts of problems. My father, a man who got 4 shots of Novocaine for every routine dental cleaning to avoid any possibility of pain, got a digital rectal exam a few years before he died at 61 years old from a stroke, which began on Father's Day and ended with a lot of tubes and tears 2 weeks later. His doctor, who is now my doctor, asked him to drop his shorts and lean on the examining table. Upon insertion of the doctor's gloved finger into the rectal cavity, my father broke into a cold sweat and passed out across the table. He woke a minute later and vomited. Needless to say, I come from weak stock. So I got the digital rectal, and the doctor said, well, it's soft, smooth, and symmetrical, but you have the prostate of a very old man. With false bravado, I told him I'd rather have an old man's prostate than an old man's hairline, casting aspersions in the direction of his blinding forehead. And for all I know, the thing was supposed to be firm, rough, and shaped like the Prime Minister of Ghana. Soft, smooth, and symmetrical, my ass. When I asked his advice about what to do, he suggested I seek out a hairstylist, because I was a bit bedraggled that day. Funny, huh? I get the gland of a geriatric up my ass, squeezing my pee canal, and he's cracking jokes. So I went to the expert, and he recommended a biopsy. Holy shitballs, that didn't sound good at all. And I was even more concerned that there was something mortally wrong with me. Guilt drives my life. Guilt and sin, actually, the twin fangs sunk deep into my mind by the vampiric Catholic priests who trained me. Bunch of little Draculas themselves, all dressed in black, and who knows what those freaks did at night. Well, we have some idea now. So with all the sex and sin stuff, I automatically assume I'm guilty of crimes punishable by death, and the sentence will be delivered via my sexual mechanics. What else? Oh, holy Christ. When was the last time I mentioned anything about that mosquito? Man, I really got off on a tear with that one. Now, Marushka's starting to get on my nerves, It used to be just fine to go off on a flyer like that, but now it's another opportunity to feel bad about myself. Therapy is a questionable endeavor. Okay, back to business. And so, there, January 10th, in the bathroom now, I sit trying to pee with Hey Nostradamus by Doug Copeland, as I said, and wouldn't you know it, but just then in flies the freaking pterodactyl, and I swing at it with the book and whack it, stunned in midair, tail spinning toward the tub. I bound off the throne, penis swinging and banging against my knees. Yeah, right. And boxer shorts, ankle wrapped, and it lands on the porcelain tub edge. It is a huge mosquito. Holy shitballs again. I think, this thing is massive and is recovering in this very moment. Faced with a choice to kill or risk being sucked off, I bring Copeland's book down and extinguish its life with the cool decisiveness of the gunmen in the high school cafeteria massacre I was just reading about. Now immediately I got troubles. What's up with killing the thing? Who was that character? A special case, no doubt. Alive, like that whole mastodon they found in the tundra preserving ice, awaiting the knives and forks of the Tsar's rosy friends and bloody enemies. Alive. This mosquito was a special beast, I began to imagine. How did he adapt to months of cold and frost and winter? He wasn't living off me or my wife, and the dog is a master at snapping much smaller and quicker creatures right out of the air. Perhaps he became a vegetarian, a fruitarian. They're always out on the counter, the fruits, ripening, over-ripening sometimes. Perhaps he's been living off pears and tomatoes. Oh, Jesus, he's a hippie, for God's sake, a vegan. He had evolved, the first of his breed, to do so in 1 million years. He'd probably seen the error of his blood-sucking ways, and he was enlightened. Holy crap, I killed an enlightened creature who had given up meat and was just biding his time living side by side with us for another couple of months until he could go outdoors and frolic in the springtime. What have I done? I ran to the desk and got a huge magnifying glass and bent over the edge of the tub where he lay. As I looked, under the bathroom ceiling light, I saw his leg move. Ah! He's Lazarus, I thought. He's coming around. He wasn't ready to throw in the towel. He'd come too far spiritually and emotionally. It's a miracle. No, it was just a twitch. He was dead, and it was all on me. I went downstairs and stared at the remaining Bastardo. Blood wine. I drank it. All of it. In memory of him. I'm a vampire.